Alright, ladies and gentlemen, MrSotko here. Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about more Mt. Gox problems. And so if you guys have been floating out in space, spending a lot of time on Mars lately and not planet Earth, you may have missed the fact that Mt. Gox trustee has sold $400 million in Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash over the course of mid-December to early February. And you can see that price jump all the way down. You can see these huge gaping dips in the price of Bitcoin when those coins were actually sold. And then it was actually attempted to sell on the bottom around February 2nd or February 6th around here. And so, it's a very interesting thing. So Mt. Gox went down, it got hacked like 2013 or so. And ever since, it's been trying to pay its trustees back. It has billions of dollars in Bitcoin and needs to sell them off. So it's very interesting that they chose now to do that. And of course you would want to sell it at the highest price, but what is very interesting about it is that they used market orders to just sell it off. So they have many different options. Kraken stepped forward, and Kraken sort of has a dark market where you can sell millions upon millions of dollars of Bitcoin or something like that, and they can sell it for you without actually affecting the market price. You can do an over-the-counter trade to high-end investors or capitalists or something like that. And you can also do limit sells and buys with your coin as well to sell it at a specific price. Now, this is much slower, but all the investors of Mt. Gox have been being paid back for a long time now. So it's been a long time. So there is no rush, essentially, to pay back these people. And there is no rush to pay them back within 2 months. Since it's been so many years, why not just drag it out just a few months longer and sell it in limit orders? So that's what this article is all about. I've talked about this article in some previous videos, but now we're looking at even more. So I have a couple articles up here that we're gonna talk about, and but first I want to talk about market sells, and just in case you guys aren't familiar, so a limit sell is basically set the price for a very specific price. You want to sell Bitcoin for $10,000, and it won't sell for $1 over. It won't sell for $1 under that. It'll sell for exactly $10,000, and if there isn't enough people to buy it at $10,000, it'll just partially fill, and maybe you'll sell half of it or 75% of it, or however many buyers there were. Most of the time, it just sells all of it at that specific price, and that's what Mt. Gox should have done. So any trustee with all of this Bitcoin that is trusted with all of this Bitcoin to sell it is likely not an amateur, and likely is not their first rodeo sort of deal. So them market selling it is almost conspiratorial in nature in how they wanted to get rid of it, and almost as if they wanted to crash the market, including many thousands of Bitcoin being sold at the bottom when it crashed to about $6,000 all the way from 19,800. So that's very strange. So over the past several days, Bitcoin has experienced a large drop in value. The entire market has followed this trend, with Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, Ripple, so on, all declining by similar margins. Analysts have attributed the recent fall to a massive sell-off of almost 40,000 Bitcoin by a Mt. Gox trustee. So the Mt. Gox sell-off, Tokyo-based cryptocurrency exchange Mt. Gox was formed in 2010, and just 4 years later, responsible for over 70% of all Bitcoin transactions worldwide. Unfortunately, in 2014, the exchange closed down, filed for bankruptcy following the theft of approximately 850,000 Bitcoin. 850,000 Bitcoin. The problem today is that creators are still after the missing money, and it has been reported, or creditors are still after the missing money. It has been reported that Kobayashi, the lawyer and trustee of Mt. Gox, has sold 35,841 Bitcoin and a whole bunch of Bitcoin Cash as well, worth more than $400 million over the past few months, starting in September of last year. So many in the industry have thrown shade at Kobayashi, claiming this influx of Bitcoin contributed to the intense volatility of the markets in December and January, as well as more recent pricing downtrends. The Mt. Gox trustee still holds 166,000 Bitcoin, worth more than $1.5 billion at the moment. I actually did the math on a calculator, and at the moment it's about 1.577 billion, but who's counting after that, right? So this has attracted a lot of attention, But there may be some good news. The next court proceeding for the Mt. Gox bankruptcy isn't scheduled until September 18th, so it's likely then that before that date, Kobayashi won't be able to dump the remaining 166,000 until then, although I've read tweets that state otherwise. So details of Kobayashi's transactions published earlier this week indicate that the mass sell-off was a potentially driving force behind the 2017 to January 2018 Bitcoin pricing slump. Analysis of the transactions suggests a correlation between the sales and Bitcoin's bearish price action in late 2017 and early 2018. The sales seem to have further shaken a market already in a downtrend following regulatory crackdowns, hacked exchanges, frauds. So on my channel, I was really talking around that time and about a month before that time as well. I was talking about a lot of FUD that was coming out. There was Korea FUD, even Jamie Dimon and all those investors were talking very negatively and FUDding Bitcoin. There was a bunch of regulatory crackdowns and, again, lots of frauds and the BitConnect fiasco as well. So all of this is a little strange. And so, again, there was this tweet that a user, a Japanese investor, claims that, in fact, the September 18th court hearing is irrelevant because Kobayashi has already been authorized to sell off, meaning he doesn't have to wait to offload any more coins. So we have another one as well, and up here. It's good to see that Mt. Gox debacle finally come to a close. More specifically, the trustee has allocated the funds necessary to repay all victims of this exchange. Kind of doubt that. Thanks to the current Bitcoin price, fewer coins are needed to make this happen. At the same time, selling Bitcoin at the current price is also problematic, as everyone can see the price is tanking hard exactly because of this major sell-off. So it appears that a total of 40,000 Bitcoin that need to be liquidated quickly. That represents a hefty chunk of money which needs to be bought up by individuals and investors. Selling this amount of Bitcoin on the open market in large batches is not the correct approach. In fact, it is one of the biggest mistakes that Mt. Gox trustee can make. In doing so, this one person is effectively crashing the entire cryptocurrency market. And this FUD is all over the place. It's all over Reddit. Nobody's particularly happy about this flooding of Bitcoin. For anyone holding Bitcoin or altcoins, it's not good news. And while everyone wants to put Mt. Gox behind them, this sell-off is not the way to go. There are plenty of other options to sell this money without disrupting overall prices. Several service providers are even willing to help in this regard. So far, their advice is falling on deaf ears. So even though Kraken offered to aid in the sale, their request has been blatantly ignored. The company runs a dark pool where people can buy and sell large quantities which do not disrupt the open market trading prices. And additionally, the funds could easily be sold through an auction and net even more money. For some reason, the Mt. Gox trustee isn't even entertaining that idea either. It's a very disturbing approach and shows a lack of respect for the cryptocurrency ecosystem as a whole. Crashing the Bitcoin price like this is completely unacceptable. I agree. It's unclear why this approach was taken, although it has all the traits of malicious intent. And this is the fastest way to repay Mt. Gox victims. However, these people have waited years to see their money back. Thus, a few days or weeks extra probably won't make any difference. A proper approach is warranted in this regard, but so far the damage has already been done. It'll be interesting to see how this will all play out. For now, Mt. Gox trustee is quickly becoming one of the most disliked individuals in cryptocurrency. His approach leaves a lot to be desired, and it appears things aren't improving whatsoever. Rumors are flying around how this is a move orchestrated by governments looking to scoop up cheap bitcoins. An interesting thought, but fake news until proven otherwise. So again, there's a lot of conspiracies about this that, you know, they're trying to crash it so that other people can just buy a lot of cheap Bitcoin, because quite frankly, it very much is cheap Bitcoin. I mean, the price was $19,000. Let's just call it $18,000. It crashed all the way to $6,000. That means people are able to buy 3 times as many Bitcoin as they previously would. And so we're talking big whales, you know, millions of dollars. So when you're looking at millions of dollars, 3 times the Bitcoin is quite a bit. So very interesting why this is happening. So, you know, so with a limit buy, or him limit selling these at a certain price would not disrupt the market very much. You know, if he put it at $18,000, sure, there would be this big wall, and he could just slowly do it, and that wall would get slowly chipped away, and it really wouldn't affect the price that much. It might deter a little bit of people from trading around that wall, but not too big of a deal. So with a market buy, or with a market sell rather, when you sell it right now to anybody and everybody willing to buy it at that moment. So a very crude, very simplified example would be like, let's say, Bitcoin is at $100, and you have 100 people willing to buy, but only one person is willing to buy at $100. And then the next person is willing to buy at $99, and then $98, and then $97, and so on, all the way down until you get to the last person who's only willing to buy Bitcoin for $1. And you had 100 Bitcoin, and then you hit market sell. What it would do is would sell that first Bitcoin for $100, the next Bitcoin for $99, the next Bitcoin for $98, and so on, all the way down, as opposed to a limit order, which would set your price at 100, and therefore everybody would have to meet you up at 100 to purchase that Bitcoin. So you actually make a lot less when you sell in a market order, and not to mention there's much more fees doing it that way as well. And so effectively you would crash the market if there was only 100 people and there's only 100 Bitcoin. And I know it's extremely simplified, but it's a good example regardless, in my opinion. You would crash the market all the way down to $100. Now, likely that market would go back up pretty quickly, but it is what it is, and you would crash it down to $100 or $1 for everybody. Again, very oversimplified, but it is what it is. So, so we still have $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin to dump on the market from these Mt. Gox trustees. So that's borderline 2% of the entirety of the cryptocurrency market cap. That's huge. That's incredible. If you had 2% of basically any kind of market in this world, you would have a lot. Considering the market cap of Bitcoin is something like, where's it at here? $162 billion, so 2% of that, or so, somewhere around there. It's approximately 2%, maybe a little bit less, but it's still an incredible amount. And if it was all sold at once, it would certainly crash Bitcoin down to quite low. There would be a lot of resistance, of course, because people would be buying that cheap Bitcoin. But there's definitely a crash coming soon. And I know people take the word crash in a very, very harsh way. Some people think that crash means, that it goes all the way down to $1. But I refer to a crash as anything that's, a few thousand or so. A lot of people just refer to that as a dip. Sometimes I do. I sort of interchange the word dip and crash. But there's a dip for sure coming sooner or later. Is it going to happen tomorrow? It's going to happen a week, month? Nobody really knows. Just as the previous article said, they think that it's not going to be till after September 18th. And then, later on in the article, somebody states the complete opposite and says, well, it could happen anytime. So nobody really knows. So, a little bit of advice, I suppose, is if you have some extra currency on an exchange in terms of fiat, maybe set a buy order for Bitcoin very low, something like in the order for $5,000 or something like that. Maybe just keep a close eye on it. And, that's all just pure speculation, that $4,000 or $5,000. But definitely keep a close eye in the market, as we're probably going to see a dip sooner or later. And of course, we're always going to see dips in cryptocurrency because it's extremely volatile. But I'm talking about a pretty major dip. Similar to the 19,800 to 6,000. So in this case, it might be all the way down to something like $3,000. At this point, it's about 9,600. And so to get 3 times that, we're looking at $3,000. And mind you, the last sell-off was only $400 million. It was only $400 million plus a little bit of FUD and a little bit of issues in the cryptocurrency world, all equated to a price slashing of 2/3 all the way down to $6,000, a little bit less than $6,000 in fact. So if we're talking $1.5 billion, that is quite a bit more. It's nearly 4 times that amount. So we could be looking at a crash of 3,000 or less dollars. So just keep a look on the market, and whenever you see that huge crash, buy, because you're going to get some super cheap Bitcoin. You're going to get some Bitcoin so cheap that you're looking at maybe like July prices or June prices. We can actually even maybe take a look here and go back a year and see when it was actually $3,000. And it wasn't 3,000 till about, let's see here. Yeah, about June or July, maybe the start of August there, it was about 3,000. So while that seems like a long time ago, yeah, I guess it really wasn't, but the price certainly seems like a long time ago. $3,000 compared to nearly 20 is a huge difference. So just before I end this video, I want to say thank you to Bob Thorson, which sounds like an office worker. Doesn't that sound like an office worker name? Not making fun of it, but it definitely sounds like almost like an office space employee. You know, if you could come in on Saturday, that would be great. He donated $3 in Litecoin, so I really appreciate that donation. Thank you very much. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and keep an eye on the market. And if you see that dip, just wait a little bit. Don't buy right away, because you're gonna buy too soon, and then you're gonna buy the dip of the dip, and then you're not gonna feel too good about that. But either way, some discount coin is discount coin. But make sure you buy all the way at the bottom when it starts to go back up. Then get in there. But I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time.